How can one place hold so many different stories? Today, Burwash is remembered as an abandoned prison. Its crumbling walls, empty corridors, and decades of decay have given rise to countless ghost stories and urban legends. To many, it's simply one of Northern Ontario's most haunted abandoned places. But that isn't the whole story. For more than 60 years, from 1914 until 1975, Burwash was far more than just a prison. It was an entire community built within Ontario's boreal forest. There were homes built, a school, a church, a post office, and even a general store. Families built their lives here. Children walked these roads to go to school. Neighbors gathered on weekends. It was a place many former residents still remember with fond memories. Yet just beyond those same homes stood prison walls. Beyond them lived hundreds of inmates working Ontario's largest prison farm under the correctional system that remains one of the most debated chapters in the province's history. It's strange walking into Burwash today. The roads have mostly all disappeared beneath the forest. The buildings and community are no longer here. It's hard to imagine that this quiet landscape was once filled with everyday life. These tracks and pathways likely carried far more than visitors. They connected the entire community. The staff walked to work. Children made their way to school. Families stopped at the post office before heading back home. Sundays meant church. Neighbors would catch up and kids would play together while parents talked. Life here was isolated, but according to many who grew up in Burwash, it was also close-knit. Everyone knew everyone. The surrounding wilderness became their backyards, and despite living beside a prison, many of the former residents remember it as a wonderful place to spend their childhood. That contrast is what makes Burwash so fascinating. For one group of people, these roads led home. For another, they led back behind locked gates. Getting here is no easy task. The roads are long gone. The forest has reclaimed almost everything. And if you come unprepared, the mosquitoes will make sure you don't stay long. It's remarkable how quickly nature takes back what people left behind. Decades ago, this would have been a maintained route for travel. But today, it's almost as though the forest is trying to erase the town that once stood here. And then, it finally comes into view. For the families who lived in Burwash, this would have been an ordinary sight, part of everyday life. For the men incarcerated here, it represented something entirely different. Burwash wasn't built as a maximum security prison. It was designed as a prison farm, where inmates would work the land, harvest timber, build roads, and help sustain the institution and the surrounding settlement. To some, that work represented rehabilitation. To others, it represented hardship and exploitation. More than 50 years after its closure, those debates still remain. Now, let's see what's left inside. It seems to me that this room could have very well been a cafeteria. It's easy to picture what it may have looked like decades ago. Long tables, conversations echoing through the room, meals served on a strict schedule. For inmates, this would have been one of the few places where daily routines briefly brought everyone together. For staff who worked here, it was just simply another part of their day. Food was more than just a necessity. Burwash operated as a prison farm, producing much of its own food through inmate labor. The surrounding fields, livestock, and farm life helped sustain the inmates, making it largely self-sufficient for much of its history. Today, voices have long disappeared, replaced only by silence and the sound of wind moving through the broken windows. As I walk through the hallways, the atmosphere changes. The walls feel heavier, and the reminder becomes impossible to ignore. No matter how much community existed behind these walls, it was still a prison. This is the actual size of the cell. As you can see, it's not very big. Enjoy every moment. Lovely. Walking these corridors today, the building feels almost frozen in time. Every broken doorway, every rusting cell, and every layer of graffiti tells a different story of Burwash's history. Some visitors came here searching for paranormal evidence, others to photograph the decay. But long before it became an abandoned landmark, these hallways were simply a part of someone's everyday life. For correctional officers, it was a place of work. For inmates, it was where days turned into months and months turned into years. Just beyond these walls, children were growing up, families were building lives together, and a small Northern Ontario community carried on with remarkable normalcy. Few places illustrate such striking contrast between freedom and confinement. As we make our way upstairs, the scale of the building becomes even more apparent. It's difficult not to wonder how many thousands of footsteps these hallways have witnessed over the decades. By the time Burwash had closed in 1975, the prison farm model was beginning to disappear. Changing correctional philosophies, aging infrastructure, and shifting priorities in terms of government spending eventually brought an end to an institution that had operated here for more than 60 years. This may be one of the most surprising rooms in the entire complex. An auditorium isn't something most people would expect to find inside an abandoned prison. But Burwash was never simple as people imagine. It wasn't just a place of confinement, it was a place where people lived out years of their lives. Rooms like this remind us that even within the walls, there were moments that existed outside of work and outside of the cells. Today the stage sits empty, the audience is gone, and like most of Burwash, the purpose of this room has slowly faded into history. Nearby sits an old elevator shaft, another piece of infrastructure that once moved people and supplies through the building without a second thought. Today, it's simply another reminder that everything here has been left to time. Is it locked?
No handle.
Let's see. Standing on the roof offers a perspective that few people ever get to experience. From up here, it's easier to understand just how isolated Burwash really was. But for more than 60 years, this wilderness supported an entire community. Surrounded by vast boreal forest, this community existed in a world of its own. Looking across the landscape, it's difficult to imagine everything happening here all at once. Families were raising children, neighbors were building a community, while inmates worked the surrounding land, caring for livestock, harvesting crops, and working in the shops that supported the community that helped keep this isolated settlement running. Perhaps that's the real legacy of Burwash. Not that it was simply a prison or simply a hometown, but it was both at the same time. Next, we headed to the basement. If there's one place that seems to capture everyone's imagination, it's the basement. Just one wrong step, and we're swimming in that. I don't want to go swimming today. Whatever secrets lie below, they won't be easy to reach. The basement is unlike anywhere else in the prison. It's dark, flooded, almost completely silent. Over the years, this basement has become one of Burwash's most talked about locations. Paranormal investigators have claimed to have heard unexpected footsteps, distant voices, and strange echoing through these flooded corridors. One investigation even reported what they believed was a voice of a former inmate claiming he had spent 10 years imprisoned here. In this part of the basement, the only light comes from our cameras, and every step through the water echoes into the darkness ahead. Standing down here, it's easy to understand why this place leaves such long-lasting impressions on visitors. But perhaps the most unsettling part isn't the darkness itself. It's knowing that these empty corridors once served a purpose. Generations of people passed through this building. Some arrived for work, others arrived with no choice at all. Today, the basement has become the center of countless ghost stories, with many believing it's one of the most haunted parts of Burwash. Whether those experiences are paranormal or simply a result of exploring an abandoned prison in near total darkness is something every visitor has to decide for themselves. For me, it's something else entirely. It's the overwhelming feeling that history still lingers here. Following the faint daylight, we finally make our way back towards an exit. The building around us is collapsing once again. Walls are crumbly, and nature is slowly reclaiming everything once again. But despite the decay, Burwash refuses to be forgotten. Its history continues to draw explorers, historians, former residents, descendants of inmates, photographers, and those who are simply searching for answers. Stepping back outside almost feels like a relief. After spending hours inside these ruins, it's impossible not to reflect on everything Burwash once was. A prison, a hometown, a workplace, a childhood, a place of punishment, a place of community. Very few places in Ontario carry so many different stories within the same landscape. But our exploration isn't finished yet, because in part 2 we'll venture even deeper into Burwash and uncover what may be the most unsettling room in the entire complex.